this time, we'll call to order the Board of Public Works meeting. This is October 13th, 2025. Betty, your final time doing this call.
No.
Mayor Boyd.
I'm here.
Alderperson Carpenter.
Here.
Alderperson Esterkan.
Here.
Alderperson Hanson.
Here.
Alderperson Levina.
Here.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Do that so well, Betty. Up next, we have public comment on matters not on the agenda. Comments made during the public comment period shall pertain only to matters under the jurisdiction of the Board of Public Works. Anyone in person or virtually have any public comment upon matters not on the agenda. Chase, thank you for raising your hand.
I'm Chase
you are up.
Chase Kufel. I work at 925 South 6th Street. I just want to take the moment to thank Betty for her 6 years of esteemed service on Board of Public Works and Sustainability Commission, and we're going to be sad to see you go. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
This
Yay.
is our last meeting.
Last meeting, we can give her a hand for that, can we not? Going on for bigger and better things, I take it, correct? We're still in the public comment session, so you can talk. Go ahead.
I don't know about I don't know about bigger and better, but the plan is to move down to our family land, and I took a job with Columbia County down there.
Fantastic. Columbia County. Well, best of luck, I'm sure, from all of us. And you have the whole week to go, right? Here?
Yes.
Okay, so we have plenty of time.
She's got sick days.
You can. Unfortunately, you have to go to the microphone up there or next to Chase is just fine.
Okay.
We need your name and address just for
Hi,
the record.
I'm Ginny Hintz from Freedom, Wisconsin. And Betty, I work with Columbia County. I actually have to call them tomorrow. What are you doing there?
I will be the new admin assistant for solid waste department.
Okay. So I don't know if I'll be talking to you too much.
Yay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chase. For the second time, any public comment on matters not on the agenda? If so, virtual land, just state your name. For the third and final time, any public comment on matters not on the agenda, now is your time. Let's go to the items. Item 1, approval of the minutes of the September 8th, 2025 Board of Public Works meeting minutes. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson Carpenter. Any discussion or comments? We have none. That said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. My mouse isn't working here, so I'm really struggling, people. Item 2, consideration and possible action on Dumpster Corral Collection Services. This is going to Tony.
All right. 1 second. So the city of De Pere currently manages 5 dumpster corrals. We'll be having a 6th corral coming in 2026 in the Mill Alley. In 22, we went out for a 3-year request for proposals. At that time, GFL was awarded the contract. Our contract was coming to an end at the end of this year. Went back out for another 3-year request for proposals. Attached in the packet shows the 2 proposals, one with Harder, one with GFL, based upon the prices and the services provided. GFL does provide the best, lowest rate for both garbage and recycling, and our staff is recommending approving that contract and moving forward.
Thank you. Questions, comments, motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Alderperson Carpenter, seconded by Alderperson Ledmana. Discussion, comments? Alderperson Hanson.
Tony, on the bid summaries, it does mention a 2026 future downtown location. Can you confirm where that location will be?
I believe it's the Mill Alley, just on the north side of the 300 block of Main Avenue. Yep, correct. And we put that in there also for any future ones that may come up during the time period of this contract.
Scott.
One of them that we collect for, we didn't have before, not just the dumpsters, but we started collection for the community center. So that actually is added to this. So as Tony indicated, there might be other locations that we, may pick up in the future.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? All right, that said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 3, consideration and possible action on leasing an equipment storage warehouse. Tony again. Tony.
Yep. So Previously, as you know, the MSC is going to be expanding. We're running out of room, and we have been renting storage facilities to store a bunch of our equipment in the off season. We did rent previously from KK Integrated Logistics. When the lease expired, we were up by the port in Green Bay. They were unable to renew the current location due to the need for the space for the ship cargo. They did indicate they have an area at the old Shopko Distribution Center. It's about 3,400 square feet. We were renting about 6,000, but this is what became available right in De Pere. The terms of the lease are the same as what we had when we were in Green Bay. Both KK Integrated Logistics and our city attorney have reviewed the lease and have come to an agreement upon it. So we are recommending we move forward with entering into the lease for this short term. It could be, or currently it's a year, it could be extended depending on the phases and progress of the construction at the MSC.
Thank you. Bringing the equipment back to De Pere, isn't that nice? Okay. I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Ledman. Discussion or comments? Great again that you guys found these solutions to store this this stuff. That said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Item 4, consideration and possible action on 2025-2026 sidewalk snow and ice removal rates. Scott's going to jump in here.
So annually, you got to bring it before the Board of Public Works to set rates for basically snow and ice removal from sidewalks, resulting in property owners who actually do not remove it. So basically, the rates you see before you are based off the equipment and labor rates. In 25, compared 25 versus 26, you were looking, on a 90-foot lot for 25 rates, you were looking at $101.70. They're now increasing to $106.20. For compacted snow and ice for a 90-foot lot in 25 was $161.10. Now for 26, that same lot would be $164.70. This is actually based off of 90. The rates are linear foot, so it could be more or less depending on the size of the lot. Also, one of the things I'm recommending this year is actually increasing our minimum charge per lot. Basically, in the past, it has been $80. It's been $80 from 21 to 25, and then prior to that, for 16 to 20, it was 75. So I'm recommending a increase from $80 to $85 per lot.
Thank you. Do we have, I know we're pretty savvy on social media, but do we do a little campaign prior to the snow season reminding the residents of the policy? Okay, I'm sure we do. So I'll make a motion to approve the new rates.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Carpenter. Additional discussion or comments? All right, seems everyone is good with that. That said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 5, consideration and possible action for conventional water rate application for expense depreciation. Scott.
So I'm going to start this off. We got a few people here to discuss it. The Board of Public Works and Council approved hiring a consultant, Onward Accounting and Consulting LLC, to assist us with applying for the Wisconsin Public Service Commission for a full conventional water rate case. As the board is aware, over the last many years, the water utility has become in a negative deficit. We're trying to look at ways to improve that, get out of that negative deficit. Part of the reason for the rate case is actually looking at what to do on 25. We were looking at bonding $1 million for water main utility relay. And again, in my 26 proposed budget, we're actually looking at also bonding for $1 million. So as we're working through the process, our consultant actually, there's a new way and methodology the PSC has funded water main replacements called expense depreciation. There's only been, I believe, 3, if not 4 water utilities in the state that actually has done this. And what this does, it allows the water utility cash fund water main replacement. For many years, I've been here almost 20 years, we've been cash funding water utility or water main relays, and that's part of the reason the utility went more in the deficit. So what we're looking at as part of going through the rate case, we're actually looking at applying with the Public Service Commission to actually do the expense depreciation. So what we're looking at potentially is, instead of bonding for $1 million a year, there'll be a presentation on it. Instead of bonding for $1 million a year, we cash fund it for $1 million a year, same amount. We're looking at approximately, if we do the cash funding, the rates right now preliminary, we're thinking it's going to be about a 19%. If we don't cash fund, we continue to bond, catches up with us later, and it's actually the rates most likely the PSC would approve would be 5.5%. So the reason for this is we either need to bond for water utility relays, or we need to cash fund it through the rate case that we're discussing here in order to improve the financial status of the water utility. So staff is recommending going with the expense depreciation method. Pam and Ginny is our consultant here, got some more information regarding that.
Thank you. Pam?
Start it really quick. So, turn that on so you can hear me.
Yep.
So as Scott noted, the water CIP right now is set to replace about 1% of our mains a year, which is about 6,800 linear feet. And just to kind of summarize what we've seen the last couple audits since I've been here, this is our cash deficit due to other funds for the last 5 years. So you can see we've been right around $5 million, and it continues to increase. Now, back in 24, we did the long-term borrowing of the $5.2 million, just to kind of show that long-term advance. And that shows the money being borrowed from the general fund and the storm or wastewater, I believe. But that isn't really helping our cash still. It's showing it that we have that cash out there, but we continue to see a negative fund balance.
Yeah, and I'll just touch on that. So I think you guys are paying that advance. The agreement was over 10 years with interest to the other two funds. So, that's part of that's considered part of your debt. It's like you had to issue $5.2 million from yourselves, just different funds, because water is a separate entity. So that is included as part of your debt structure when I submit this data to the PSC. So those annual debt repayments between now and 2034. Yeah, roughly. So doing expense depreciation, I'll just touch on this. The PSC has a very complex calculation methodology to calculate rates. It's not as simple as I've done your sewer rate studies in the past, and you basically say these are our expenses, this is the debt we have to pay, and here's what we need to generate in revenues to cover that. That's pretty simple cash flow, and that's how you basically do your annual budgets. Well, water is much more complex, and the reason why is the PSC, they're a legal entity, they regulate the water utility, they want to have equitable water rates to the customers, so they're for the customers. So this calculation basically is a way to ensure that the rates, you can't just issue debt and do whatever you want and say, we need this much money to fund this. They want to have you prove it by looking at the assets that you're putting in the ground, using depreciation, and just all that calculation kind of keeps all utilities in the state of Wisconsin are calculated similarly to keep the rates equitable. So that's why this structure it's very complex. And when we do this, I've done many rate cases, and whenever I do a rate case, I always look at a cash flow model. Is this logical? Okay, here's what you're generating from your rates, here are your expenses, here are your debt. And sometimes I won't have enough, so we tend to ask the PSC for a higher rate increase. Or if there's too much, I have a couple of those right now, I'm trying to get the PSC to lower the rate increase, saying we don't need this much, we don't need to put this burden on the customers. So in your case, because you're not issuing debt and you're trying to cash flow it, you weren't generating enough cash to pay your annual expenses. So Scott said, well, that's not enough. When I did the rate case, I came up with about 5.3%. And it wasn't enough if you didn't want to issue debt. So the only way that you could keep going would be issuing $1 million of debt every year, because you're always going to be replacing water mains every year to infinity, right? Because you have 68,000 feet of main, you replace 6,800 feet a year. By the time you get to the 100th year, you're replacing the ones from 100 years ago. So the PSC A few years ago, it was Marshfield Water Utility. They were asking for a higher rate of return to fund their main replacements, and they were trying to get the PSC to agree to it. And so what happened was one of the higher level accountants came up with this expense depreciation saying, you know, you're replacing mains every year. Instead of determining those mains to be a capital item that we depreciate at 1.3%, which is 77 years. So when you do $1 million of mains, they're only giving you $13,000 in your rates to cover that cost. Well, your debt is 10 to 20 years, so you're never catching up, you know, with that. So they don't give you enough money to pay that debt, plus the interest on the debt. So she said, since utilities are, if you have a good utility that's managing their replacement program well, so you have to prove, so Scott's going to have to prove that he has a really great replacement program, that you're tying in your main replacements with street and sewer replacements, which you guys are. So if you have a really good plan, that's one of the pieces of the puzzle. And the other piece is, she said, well, since you're replacing these every year, it really is an expense, the $1 million, rather than getting $13,000. So by including $1 million in your rate case, you're adding $1 million of expense to your rate case. That makes the rate increase, instead of being 5, being 19. So that's what's causing that initial increase. So that would be 2026. You would see, instead of seeing a 5%, you'd see a 19%. So what happens is, and we're going to actually go to cash funding versus borrowing, and I'm going to actually go to the next slide. So if you look at what happens when you borrow, if you issue $1 million a year and you pay it off over 20 years, when you get to year 2046, you're going to have roughly $15 million of debt, and your interest payment is going to be $571,000 every year. And you'll never catch up, because once the issue from 2026 drops off, you're going to be issuing one in 2047. You know, so you'll always have $15 million of debt, a liability on your books that you have to pay back. And you're always going to be paying, now these are in today's dollars, almost $1.6 million a year for principal and interest. Where if you do expense depreciation in today's dollars, it would be $1 million a year. Because you're cash funding it, you don't have to issue debt and pay interest. So that just gives you an idea on that.
So I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Where's the 15 million on this?
It's not on here, but it is on the next summary page.
Okay, because I just a little lost here as you're explaining.
Right. I just was, so it
Okay,
actually, it was, I think it was $12,021 instead of 15 million. $12,021,251. I'll get to that, but that's what it would be, because it keeps layering, you know, the repayments.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I don't want to go through, we have some, Pam can just show you the pro formas I have for cash flow. So I am not going to explain this to you, because this shows you the calculations that we had to do, the metrics that we have to show the PSC. This is the kind of stuff we have to put into the rate case. The other thing I just want to make note of is that this is going to the full PSC board. Normally when you do a regular rate case, it goes to just part of the board. This goes to the full PSC board. So we have to submit many exhibits and many like affidavits, like of testimony. So there's a lot involved in this. So we're going to be submitting all of these metrics to show that it's better to cash fund over time than it is to issue debt over time. And so I'm not going to go through all the numbers, because I have a nice little summary page. And we're just going to go right to that summary page, Pam. I think it's the last one. Okay, so the one thing about doing cash funding versus debt funding today, you're going to have a 19% increase. Your residents probably won't be happy instead of having a 5% increase. It's not always great, but the PSC looks at it and they say the rates are higher now, but in 20 years, because you have $12 million of continuous debt, almost 600,000 of interest payments, the rates at that point will be higher than if you cash fund. Because if you cash fund, you only need to do small increases throughout the years. If you debt fund, your expenses and your debt keep increasing over time, and you need to increase your rates more. So when you get to year 2046, it shows your rates will actually be higher in 2046 by debt funding than they are if you do cash funding. The
19% of one big jump that 1 year, right? If we
just 1 year big jump.
And then what happens, like hypothetically, the next?
Hypothetically, then in both of my scenarios. So in the scenario, I have a summary, but I'll just give you an idea.
That's fine.
I think it's like every 4 years. So once you start with the cash funding, maybe every other year for the first couple of years, you do a simplified rate case, which is something that takes 5 minutes, and Pam can do that, and you can get a 3%.
Even Pam can do it. Oh.
Yeah, it's really easy, okay? So you can do this 3% simplified.
Okay.
And then when you do, so you don't have to hire a consultant and pay,
Okay.
the consultant to do it. That's something you can do in-house. If you do the debt funding, the pro forma is showing in 2 years, so you did a rate case with me 2 years ago, and now you're doing one, and then in 2029 or 2028, I'm showing you're going to have to do another one. Then you might be able to get by in 2 years with the simplified, but then another full one, simplified, where with the cash funding, you can just keep doing simplified until the PSC tells you there's a point where the PSC will say, I think you can do like 8 of them. So you might get by for over 10 to 15 years.
Okay, so it's very
before
cost effective.
It is cost effective too, right. Along with keeping the rates lower, because the rates are going to be, instead of being 3% increases, we're looking at 6% here, 5% there instead of 3, So if you look at this little summary, this will give a really good picture. So the first column is today's rates. So year 2025, we're just going to look at the average residential. You can look at the average commercial and public authority. Public authority is the government, like the city offices, park, buildings, schools. So an average residential customer that uses 9,500 gallons per quarter pays about $137 today. In 2027, if you did cash funding, that 19% is going to be $163. And then if you go over to the debt funding column, I don't know if you can point at that, Pam, to kind of help them. Can you do that or not? Okay.
Yeah.
It's 145 because it's only 5 or 6% increase. Then you can see in 2039 that the cash funding is at 183 and the debt funding is already higher at 188.
Okay.
And then in year 2046, you're at 189 for cash funding.
Oh, I just said it went wrong.
There, okay. So, yep, sorry, we'll go back. At year 2046, it's 189 for cash funding and 214 for debt funding. This does include like a 2.5% inflationary, like for expenses and for debt and for the cost. So it also shows that currently you have between principal and interest in 2025, about $730,000. That's your principal and interest payments that you're paying right now. And that includes that interfund payment that you pay to the wastewater utility and the general fund. And that's the bulk of it. I think that's about $580,000, something like that. So then in year 2027, you still have, because you're going to be issuing the $1 million in 25 and the $1 million in 26, because that's going to help your cash flow.
So should we be looking at that 856?
The 856, because you have the 2 extra $1 million loans are in there.
Yep.
But then when you get to 2039, your debt's paid off. 2046, your debt is paid off. Debt funding, in year 2027, you're higher than cash funding because you've issued debt another $1 million in 27. And then in 2039, you're up to over $1 million of principal and interest because you've had another 11 years of $1 million issues. And then in 2046, you max out in today's dollars, of course, almost 1.6 million. So your interest is more than 50% of your principal. Where when you go down to the bottom, if you go, not in the bottom, I'm sorry, the middle shows your long-term debt payable. So today you owe 5.8 million, and most of that is due, I think 5.2 million of that, or 4.6 of that is due to the other funds. In 2027, it'll be about 5.4, and then no long-term debt in 39 or 46, where you can see that in debt funding, you're going to have almost 6.4 in 2027, 10.5 million in 2039, and then you max out at $12,021,000 in 2046, and that you'll stay. That's where it levels off. But you're always going to have that liability on your books, and you have to think about intergenerational. So the PSC looks at intergenerational equity. So they want the people that are reaping the rewards of these main placements to pay for them today, not for your grandkids or children to have to pay them 20 years from now. So you're setting up the future of your residents, to have stable water rates. And you're also setting them up, the last piece of the puzzle, which I think is very important, is, you're in a deficit for your cash. So because you borrowed the 5.2, your operating reserves are actually a negative $1 million today. You have to set money aside for your tower repainting. That's built into your water rates. So you have about $1 million of that. So your cash, at the end of this year, we're projecting you to be about even in your cash. Okay?
Yep.
In 2027, you can see that we're hoping to get your cash up. You still have to put money into that tower repainting every year. And 2027 shows you'll have about $120,000 in cash, and then 1.3 in tower repainting funds. But the best part is, look at year 2039. You have no debt, so you don't owe your other funds, the general fund and wastewater fund, any money, and you have operating cash reserves of 6.6 million. The reason why your tower repainting funds went down is you are putting money in every year, but you have, I think, a couple of those years you're doing tower repainting, so you're spending the money, which is why that'll go up and down. You have 3 towers, Scott? Yeah. So we include that in the rate case. We include that in your cash flow model, so we can track those dollars. Because I do have a lot of utilities right now that I work for that are issuing debt to fund their tower repainting, and that's not recommended. So we definitely want to have that money set aside. And then in year 2046, because you are cash funding and we're keeping your rates stable, your cash reserves, you're using some of those for tower repainting, you're using some of those for main services and hydrant replacements. We're looking at roughly $4 million in 2046. So the debt funding, I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but you can look and see that when we get to 24/6, the way I structured the rates was to keep the cash model similar in 2046, so you could see what the rates would be like apples to apples with the same cash flow, So the one thing that you do have in the debt funding structure that you don't have in the cash funding structure is when you do issue debt, if you issue revenue bonds, you're required to have a debt redemption fund that you can't touch. It's required by your bond covenants. So you have to keep 1 year's worth of principal and interest payments. So basically you got 1.5 million, 1.6 million of cash that has to sit on your books indefinitely that you can never touch because you're always going to be issuing debt. So it looks like you have that extra cash, but it really isn't there. You can't touch it. You can't use it for anything. It's there for a debt reserve. It'll come off the books when the debt is paid off, but your debt will never be paid off. So this is the end of my presentation, unless Scott and Pam wanted to add any more, but I'm highly recommending that we do this expense depreciation and that you be number 4 in the state and show that you can set up a strong, stable water rates for future generations for the city of De Pere.
I think this is a great scheme. We'll call it a plan. I fully concur with this, and I've been following this for the last couple of years. The problem we're going to have is try to sell this. If we get every resident in this room and you go through this thing right now, they'll walk away. This is a great idea. So it's going to be messaging more than anything, because this is really the right way to go. I mean, without a doubt.
It's a great idea until they see their water bill.
Until they, right, so how do you message it that in the long run, even the short run, this
Hard
is the
sell
way
though
to
for a
go?
lot of people.
Yeah.
The long run sell. I'm not against this at all. I just want to say that.
That's why I'm bringing it up. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna have to be a real message campaign. Alderperson Carpenter.
Yeah, but you watch other communities, surrounding ones just had almost a 20% increase.
Yeah.
I won't put out names here.
So that part won't be a shock.
Numerous communities.
Numerous.
Alloway just
That's not my question. My question is, so you can run 8 years of doing the quick.
You can run
Like,
8 times,
8
which
times.
could be 15 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
so every 3, so is it the city's intent, this is where I want, how often you're gonna do it, asking for 3%, and do we need the 3%?
Right.
That is gonna be some of my questions.
No.
You do, we look at your cash flow every year and you determine, when you do your budget, that's when you guys will determine, do we need to do a 3% this year? You know, you might not need to because it depends on your cost. Things are fluid, right? So things can change. We're looking out 20 years. Who has a crystal ball, really? For 20 years, we do the best we can to do these cash modeling plans. But I will say I've done these a lot. And when I look back, like I'll look, oh, this is where we were supposed to be. And sometimes it's pretty close. I think, there's really not a lot of surprises in a water utility. We pretty much know, what your costs are going to be.
That's where my point is. So we go out there, so 2026, you have your 19 or your 20% increase.
Mm-hmm.
Are we then waiting like 2 or 3 years and then before the next time you're gonna?
At
I'm
least
just trying
2.
So if you're trying to do the sell, I'm just trying to get the
If
meat
you-
potatoes out there, so you're telling people what.
Right. If you do the debt funding, I just did this rate case 2 years ago, and now here we are again today with another. And what was it 2 years ago? It was 8%, I think, right?
That wasn't,
It was almost
it
20.
was double digits, wasn't it?
Oh, no.
something.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. So now here we are, because you're in debt and you don't have the cash, we need to get this cash built up. So not only, so we're looking in 2 years, you probably need another 6%.
So I'm trying to get back to what are we looking? I know there's things you cannot predict.
Right.
What are we looking? If you're 2026 is 19.5%. What are we? If things just go okay, are you looking in 2029 like a 2.5% or 3%, and then that's what my question is instead of a 6%. That's where you got to get the messaging out.
Scott?
You know what I mean? Well, I understand this.
Yep, and that's all, the summary on the top, maybe that shows that same picture on what your rates would be, and in 2039, they're going to be the same. They'll that if you do debt funding, you're going to keep having increases, and they're going to surpass that 19% in 10 years, basically, and then go higher. Yeah.
And that's my point. But my point, I'm just trying to say, if you're trying to message out, Scott.
So if I understand this, if we move forward to the PSC with the expense depreciation, where we're at 19% where we cash fund, correct? What you're asking is, what is our next, it'll be a simplified rate case.
Yep.
When, at the earliest, and I think Jeannie brought out, it was probably 2 years out, 2 to 3 years out.
2 to 3 years
Yep.
out.
And then from that point, we look, because you built in a 2.5% inflation. It could be a little bit less. If it got more, I mean,
Exactly.
it might be more rate case. But that's something where Pam and I, we monitor, because she's got all those numbers, that magnificent chart. I'm still swamped with it, but she's got the cash flow analysis, and that's one of the things Pam and I will have to monitor when we do the budget. Where are we at? If we start seeing we're going the other way, well, that means telling us we got to actually raise that 3%.
So and that's most you can do is a 3%.
For the simplified, yes.
Simplified.
It depends on inflation. 2 years ago,
Was
it
eight.
was 8%. The simplified was 8%. It was 4%. Actually, about 3 years ago, it was 8, and I think last year it was 4. This year it's 3. They're back down to 3. So, and I think the CPI was 2 point something, so it'll probably be 3 next year. Yeah.
Scott?
Because the other thing too is in just because it's 3%, we're showing that's today's customers.
Yes.
We're hoping as we grow more, we get more customers, more flow. That's more revenue coming in. So then that 3% potentially could be 3 to 4 years out, or even further, because say the Saltbridge goes in, there's a lot of development taken off. So I mean, more volume, coming in that pays the rates, that, that helps all the other rate customers.
Well, plus when you pay the debt down, I think that's 34, I want to say.
Right, I understand we took on that debt. That was
I will say that the PSC, they are there to protect the customer. So they would never allow something that would be unreasonable to the customers. So they definitely, through the last 3 rate cases, there's lots of testimony and lots of statistical data, and they support this. I think they encourage utilities like you. Now, they're not going to encourage a small village. Like if you go to the village of Greenleaf, for instance, they're one of my clients that are the new village of Greenleaf just down the road. They don't have the staff to be able to do this because they don't have a public works director that can manage this and a finance director, because there are some accounting things that you have to do every year. So there are some things they have to do, but it's not a lot of work, but you guys do have the staff and the knowledge to do that. So the bigger utilities have the advantage, to do this. So I will just say that when the PSC approves it, I think that is saying something too, that they're looking forward to. This is better for the city rates overall, rather than keep increasing and increasing, because
You're not
everything.
trying to cut. I worked the water for 36
You
years.
know, yeah.
So I mean, I'm not against this. I'm just trying to make sure I fully understand it.
Yeah,
If somebody's asking.
we want that. We do.
Well, and there is a rate analysis at the PSC you can export to Excel at any given time on the PSC website, and it shows where you guys are at compared to other utilities. But I'm doing a rate case for your neighbor right now, and then I'm doing one for the utility in my area, and that one is 95%.
I mean, I think the
I
town
know.
was at a 20% not too long ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, really overall in the rate cases I've done, 19%, if you look at the dollar amount, so if you look, it's 137, 19%. I think sometimes you think 19%. I think sometimes to sell it, you're looking at that, it's $26. So it's $8 a month. So are you willing to pay $8 more a month? In 10 to 15 years, your rates are going to actually stay at a lower level than if we did the debt funding, right?
There's the messaging right there. Someone captured all that. So how does this kind of work now? So have we officially applied yet or not? We're waiting to get our approval?
You have to
Okay,
approve.
then what
Then the
happens?
city council would have to,
Yep.
once you guys approve it, it goes to council.
Yep.
Then they approve that I file it. So this is going to be filed probably either way. You're going to be filing for either a 5% and debt
Either way, we got to
funding.
file. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you approve this, then it goes to city council and they approve it. And then we have to submit all the documents. I'll give you a little summation. So in a regular rate case, you submit the application, usually in anywhere from 3 weeks to 6 weeks. The PSC comes back with a set of questions. You answer the questions. They finish their revenue requirement. It goes to the cost of service study. That individual puts together the structure of the rates, where they fall on residential, commercial, industrial, public fire protection. And then once that's done, you get the rate model. I think the last time Scott did a good job talking to the rate analyst and saying, I don't agree with this. So the rate analyst listened to Scott, and he modified some things for I think the wholesale customers you have. He did not think they were paying enough. So the rates got lowered a little bit for the city residents and a little higher for the wholesale customers. So, it's good that Scott understands that and he can look at that. So we can challenge things and the PSC will listen, and they did adjust that. Once that's done, then it goes to the hearing. Okay. Now, this is if you do expense depreciation, it goes to the full PSC board, not just a small set. So there's going to be Scott, Pam, and I will submit testimony. We're going to be submitting a lot more exhibits to prove that expense depreciation will work for the city of De Pere. But looking at Marshfield, Fort Atkinson, and Janesville were the other 3 that did it. City of Madison is working on theirs right now. I feel like we have as strong, if not stronger, than I looked at all the other applications, and I really don't think there's going to be an issue with convincing the PSC. And we actually did have a meeting with Kathy Butzloff. She's the lead auditor, and she was encouraging us, and I think she saw that it was a positive. It was going to work for the city of De Pere.
Right.
So
thank you. Alderperson Carpenter, you have
Scott, when I look at that $137 up there, is that, because I never look at my water bill, it is what it is when it comes and it's paid, you know, I mean, direct comes out of my check. So is that what the fire, is that all the bill on there? Is that with fire protection and everything, that 137?
I think that's just volume.
I'm pretty positive it includes public fire. It's everything.
Was just
yeah.
curious if that, you know,
Yep.
you've got your meter charge.
I didn't bring my laptop, but I'll confirm it with Scott tomorrow, but I'm 95% sure. Usually when I do these, I'm including everything in your rates.
Because that's another charge that I just want.
I mean, just at council have that if we go to council.
Right.
Okay,
and I definitely will confirm that, but I think I'm even 99% sure that it includes your public fire protection charge.
Okay.
And we're gonna have Ginny here at council, because, I mean, she knows her stuff, I mean, and does an outstanding job laying it out. And she'll be here for council, similar presentation, so everybody, you know, at council, you know, understands.
Is it the very next council meeting next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Do I need to go into as much detail
guys
as
have a
I
lot
did
of
here,
fun
or do you
next
think
Tuesday.
a shorter
be
summation? I guess, what's your recommendation?
I guess I defer to the boards, what do you want to see? It is a lot to comprehend, but.
Well, let's first go this route. Just to continue the discussion, I'll make a motion to approve the water rate application for expense depreciation.
And I'll second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Carpenter. And obviously more things to work out, and we can talk about messaging and all those kind of things as we go forward. Additional discussion or comments? Alderperson Hanson.
Pam, can you go back to the
Gotta cut to the chase.
pros and cons of the two different types that was skipped over that slide?
I'm sorry, I skipped over that.
Yes, I think Ginny touched on a lot of this. You know, when we borrow, a positive thing is that the user rates increase gradually, right? It's not such a drastic 19% increase in the first year. Another pro would be that ratepayer expenses are more closely aligned to the asset life, because you know that water mains are going to last more than 1 year, which we're looking to get that money in the first year for these items that we're purchasing. The con is that you have all those issuance costs and interest expense that you're now making your ratepayer eventually have to pay. The water utility has to pay all that. Another con is the increased debt. Eventually, it could negatively impact the city from taking out that much debt. So the cash funding is pretty much just the opposite. The pro is that there's no additional finance charges, and you don't have to, it's going to lower your overall cost of that purchase then. The con is that today's ratepayers are paying that full cost of the asset upfront now. But, you know, Ginny's whole spreadsheet will show that eventually the rates should end up being cheaper because we're not paying all those issuance costs and interest. So the con, again, is no gradual increase. It's going to be this one, hopefully just the one large jump, and then we will still have intermittent smaller increases.
Isn't that a pro?
Due to inflation. Well,
No gradual increase? I'm just looking at the.
it's not a gradual increase. Some people might want a smaller increase now.
One big jump.
Because it's a 19%.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought.
People don't
I'm
want to
looking
pay up
after
the money in front.
I'm looking after the one, okay, never mind. That's
Just like
fine.
your federal government, where you're so far in debt that your grandkids are going to pay forever.
Well, and you have to look at the utility. I think one of the pros with cash funding compared to borrowing is at 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, that you look at the overall health of your water utility and your cash on hand is healthy. Your debt to equity ratios are a lot lower. You have no debt when you're cash funding. And when you're debt funding, you have a higher debt to equity ratio. The PSC looks at those ratios. Yours are not out of line. I have some that are way off kilter right now that we're trying to fix, but yours are not aligned even with your borrowing, but they're still higher. You're at 20 to 25% debt to equity ratio, if anybody knows the ratio modeling that people use in the business world. And you have, a liability on your books, even though you have $4 million of cash at 2046 for both models, you're sitting with a liability on your books of $12 million. when you debt fund, and you have $0 liability when you're cash funding. So the health, not only are your, when you're looking out 20 years, and we all know where we were 20 years ago, probably, 20 years goes by pretty fast, you're setting up the utility to be in a lot healthier position where you look at it as right now. It's, you're at a negative cash flow state. You are starting to build up this debt, and you're getting these interest costs, So it's just overall, for the $8 more, for that 19%, $8 more a month, we are raising the rates higher. It's going to cost the residents more today, but it will be better for them even 10 to 15 years from now. They're already going to see that difference.
Other questions, comments? Alderperson Hanson?
So the big infusion of cash we get in 2026, sorry if I missed this, but what is that exact amount? Do we have an estimate?
It'll probably not be in 2026 right away. I should mention that this whole rate case is probably going to take us quite a while because we have to go through the whole PSC rate hearing.
I was kind of asking as well too. So what is the length of this whole process?
Right. So a normal rate case that I've been doing for 30 some years, mine have taken 4 to 5 months. I think your last one was 4 months, right on the nose. Yeah. So, but this one, because of the full rate going to the full board, they say it takes about a year. But I think that some of them have taken 9 months. It'll be next fall, probably next. So if we can get this submitted, if council would approve it, I would be able to submit it right away. And I don't know when the PSC would get back to us, but if we submit it in October, it might be next summer. So you could possibly implement it, maybe August or September.
Okay.
Next year.
Just to try to put
so
that in
the
perspective,
first full year will be
Not right away.
27. That's when you're going to see.
Residents going to save those $8 per month.
So the cash flow in 26, you get a boost because you're issuing that debt. That's helping you instead of getting the extra million from the rates, you're going to be issuing $1 million of debt. You have to get that cash. We're trying to get the cash back on track. As you know, the last, I don't know how many years you've been in that deficit. So
Unless Starbucks, whoever goes there.
Alderperson Hanson, did I answer your question? Or questions?
Yeah, so the 19% increase, I know we're saying $1 million every year cash funding things instead of borrowing it. So in 2027, I just wanted to confirm how much additional revenue are we getting once we have a full year of the rate increase?
You are getting approximately 1.4 million. And that is in you can't see it, but it's in, I don't know if you have the one that's this one, Pam.
You go 2 up, I think, or 3 up from that.
So in 2026, we're estimating you're going to have about 7.9 million. And then in 2027, you can see it's 9.3 million. That includes a million from the expense depreciation plus about 400,000 from the regular 5%. That was 5% is giving you about $400,000 in your rate case. But if we do the expense depreciation, you're going to get 1.4 million. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Which makes sense because you figure 19 is roughly 4 times more. So it's going from 400 to 1.4. It's not quite 4 times more, but it's
kind of like the street referendum we had a few years back, right? Back in '99.
2005.
06.
5
Was
or
that what it
6, yeah.
Was it 06? Dang. Other person Hanson again. Did I answer?
Yeah. So saving $1 million a year in borrowing. Pam, can you talk a little bit more about paying off the existing debt and the timeline for that?
So the existing debt we have that 10-year advanced loan from the city to the water. Mm-hmm. And then we also just borrowed $1 million this year with a 10-year repayment schedule as well. So within 10 years, starting next year is year 1, we will have paid off the existing debt that we have on the books. So then, unless we borrow again next.
We're going to have to borrow 1 more year, so that'd be 2036.
Yeah, you had an issue. I think 2026 is the last year of one of the old issues.
of the one for the meters.
Yep. So then the only debt you will have at the end of 26 will be the $1 million you're issuing in 25, or you did, the $1 million that you're issuing in 26, and then the 5.2, which I think is 4.6, right?
No.
At the end, yeah. Which will be even 4.2 at the end of 26, because you're going to pay another payment. So those are your three issues. So the biggest one is the one to yourself. So I guess the good thing is you're paying, what's the percent, 5?
To the general fund.
Yeah. Oh, general fund only. So you are, I think the general fund was the $3.2 million one, right? Something like that. So you are paying yourself with that loan, that interfund loan to the general fund. The general fund is getting the interest on that in your general fund budget, which is kind of nice.
Go ahead, Alderperson Carpenter.
So Scott, is these meters that were all put in and batteries that are gonna go bad and replacement, these meters are gonna have to be replaced. Is this all calculated in kind of into this whole thing? Because once we got them put in, we had no meters.
We had
to do.
issued
We
that,
had no
correct,
meters,
correct.
meters to do, you know what I mean, for X amount of years, because the
That-
PSC lets you get
Yes.
away with.
I put that in.
Yep, so we talked about it because in 2034, 35, we're gonna have to start doing it again.
Yeah, so is that?
The larger
is
meters
that
are already,
calcul-
the larger meters we've already been replacing.
Yes.
'cause boom. But
In the
residential,
cash
we haven't.
funding model, you can cash flow it because of,
That's-
but in the debt funding model, you might have to debt fund it.
No, that's
Yeah.
my question. So in the cash flowing part of it then, because that's gonna come up.
It's another
Yep.
pro.
That's another pro. That's what I'm just trying to
Yep.
figure out. These meters are gonna have to come around.
It's a good question.
Yep, Scott brought
that
that
in
up
there.
to me, and I'm like, I'm putting that in there because
Stick that in there.
it's a large amount. And it really, I mean, you easily could cash fund it with the cash model. So,
So that's my.
There's a
thank you
reason
very
Dan's
much.
here.
yeah, that was a good question.
There's a reason Dan's here.
That's why you gotta keep them around for
You
now.
gotta stay
Oh,
around,
they
you
have
have to stay around till
done-
2034 now, Dan.
Good old Dan.
No, nowhere. Alderperson Hanson. I'm just assuming.
No. Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. I definitely see the long-term benefits. I know residents, though, one of their main complaints is the water rates, and so, and inflation still is high, so this is a tough one.
I really see no reason not to move it on to council, that's
No.
for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously we could get more information, the council should educate themselves prior, but the other members, Scott?
So one thing I just want to add to the board we didn't talk about. So one of the things when we do our relay program now, we've been doing it ever since I've been here a long time. It includes the main replacements, the hydrant replacements, and the services. So the $1 million is strictly for our water main. So the other 400,000+ is extra cash. That's going to go to the funding of our services and our hydrants. So I mean, my capital CIP program is 1.5 from here on out because we can't do the expense depreciation on the laterals and hydrants because they don't depreciate. Like the main, the PSC figures that's 100 years. The hydrants are like 40 years. Services, I think they're a little bit less or more. So I mean, the whole program, if you look at my CIP, it'd be 1.5. We're cash funding that. The extra 400,000 plus that Ginny had mentioned, that's going to be the other part of the program, which is roughly, we figured 65% of our program, 65 to 70 is main replacement. The other 30 to 35% is the hydrants and services.
All big words. Again, it comes down to not us being sold, so I think we are. It'll be the residents.
Yep.
So that's what it's going to come down to. And I'm not going to say it's simpler to dumb this down at all, but there's got to be a way they could understand how this is a benefit. Is the clearest way to put it, Scott?
And then two more things. I mean, I know it's a lot of information, but you guys need to make informed decisions. One of the things is, though, we've talked about 2 years ago at another rate case. Ultimately, the PSC says this is your rate, this is the percentage. I mean, the council won't have any chance moving back. We're not going to implement because the PSC regulates our utility and they tell us what moving forward what our rates will be.
We know we're in. No turning back. Alderperson Carpenter.
So why do you say services are only good for 35, 40 years as to, once again, we're putting in all plastic and everything, so are you telling me all the fittings are gonna fail or what?
we're going by is
I'm
what
just
the,
gonna say, you have a
I,
plastic.
I don't disagree with you.
yeah, we don't disagree.
You can talk
Dan.
to the PSC who they
Yeah.
develop the depreciation rates. We have asked that. You know, they do look at it, but you know, maybe when we're in the meeting with Kathy, because
Bring it up.
we'll ask her again, because the accountants at the PSC develop those rates. And I agree. I'm seeing the replacements of services with the same. I mean, I'm doing Alloway's rate case, and they give me their retirement years, and it's the same for services as it is for mains. 1940s, 1950s, they haven't, you know, so they are lasting longer. I do not know why, but I agree with you.
It's a question, I understand if you had
Yeah.
copper or other things, but
Right.
the replacement.
Now
is
they're
plastic.
PVC or
PVC, you're not putting
poly.
fitting in
Yeah.
until you make your connection to your connections.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my question. So, okay,
Maybe it's the corporation stop that part.
Well-
I don't know.
unless you got corrosion or something, it's not gonna be there.
Someone's making money off of it.
I'm just gonna, I understand. Okay, thank you. I will not ask.
Additional comments and/or discussions? Alderperson Essercon.
So the main reason it's going up 19% is because we're fundamentally changing how we're doing the thing. We can't spread that 19% out over a couple of years by easing into this sort of thing, yes.
Right.
Okay, that's what
It's a good question.
I also think
It's
water
an
should be
important
free.
question, yes. Yep. Yep. We have to understand that.
And if you want me to explain, you can do a step increase in certain situations, like for a new well, for major, like if you built a water tower over 2 years, and you could do a step where you do a partial increase 1 year, partial increase another year. There is, I have one very, very small utility with 50 customers. They allowed us to, because it was a burden, to do half of their increase in 1 year and half in another. So in certain situations, they will allow that. I would say, I mean, you can ask for it, but I would say in this situation, with it being 19%, they would say they would not see a reason to allow that, would be my opinion.
All good, everybody?
Yep.
All right, that said, we have the motion and the second. All those in favor of moving this on to council, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries, thank you, with Alderperson Hanson voting nay. Thank you very much. All good? Good?
Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks, Jenny.
Yep, you're
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming
All
in.
right, so I'll see you next week.
See you next Tuesday. Well, some of us. I'm not here next Tuesday.
Where you go?
This
Well, that's
conference
good.
is no longer being recorded.
Wait.
Oh,
Someone said see you next Tuesday.
This conference will now be recorded.
Thanks, Jamie. Sorry about that. Up next, item 6.
Gotta do it again.
Consider impossible action regarding West Side New Yard Waste Site.
Excuse me. The board and council had a discussion back in August, you know, major kind of whether we move forward with our West Yard site or not. So as you may recall, the council approved moving forward with it as long as the town of Lawrence entered into an intergovernmental agreement with us by the end of the year. So we actually, one of the biggest concerns is, you know, there's a $2 million estimated cost to construct this site. One of the things you'll see and Chase has got it pulled up, you know, the bulk of the cost, we have roughly 1,000 feet of road. This is kind of be the planned area development in the area where the turf property, so where he's circling right there, none of the infrastructure is there. It's where like on, you know, Commerce Road, we had the street right there, boom, put in a driveway over there. Here we got to put all the infrastructure to the street, stormwater utility. So that's a good bulk of the cost for putting that site in. You know, that's probably $600,000-700,000. This site is also twice the size of the, I won't say quite twice, but almost twice the size of the East Side site. So the other thing is we did meet with the town of Lawrence and their town chair regarding the proposed yardway site, kind of discuss where it was going. The town is definitely interested in partnering with the city, you know, on the site because the town eventually wants to get rid of their existing site. In fact, they even said that they no longer want to be in the business of, you know, basically operating a site. So there's definitely interest to participate. There is no immediate need for them in the future, you know, to do it. So they don't need it next year or the year after. So that being said, you know, It's part of the reason we talked about in the budget session. That's one of the reasons we're recommending not, funding the project in 26 and kind of see how things work out.
Thank you. I'm going to first just make a motion that we delay construction of the proposed West Side Yards waste site in 2026.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson Ledman. Alderperson Carpenter.
So, in prior discussions with the planning, this site will not be available come 2027. Because that's what the reason of the discussion was, we got to get it. Lindstrom wanted to know an answer because that's good property land that may be developed. So that was the reason I brought up, we got to get an answer from the town of Lawrence one way or the other. So I'm just going to tell you, I do not believe this site is going to be available for a compost site because he believes he can sell that property. And that's kind of why he wanted that answer from, when we had that meeting, the council meeting that one night, it was brought up. Well, I'd really like to know because this sits on some prime property by the railroad tracks. So I don't know where we're thinking of going in the future. And if we have no other spot, I'm just going to say we should be telling the town that and maybe having a discussion with them. Do they have property in that we could still manage it if they don't want to be in the business? You know, I'm just saying being polite all around because I don't see this property being available. If planning gets it, then they want it. I think.
It's desirable land, absolutely.
Very desirable land.
Absolutely.
So
and that's also part of the whole reason why do we want this in the first place. Mm-hmm.
And so that, and I have no problem with that if this is where we're going to be moving forward. Mm-hmm. But then I think we should let our neighbor know we may not even be.
I think they're kind of aware of that though, Scott, correct?
Yes.
I think they're very aware of that. Yeah, yep.
So, I mean, one of the things, I mean, you're exactly right, is trying to market that, because this is going to be our last area for an industrial park on the west side. So it's definitely a marketable property. One of the things is, with the town of Ledgeview pulling out, you got to think the communities are similar sizes. I think maybe the town of Ledgeview is a little bit bigger. So we were ready to, partner with them on our east side site. So in a few years, when Southbridge, goes in, if the residents, if they want to partay on our east side, they could, because, I mean, we would have most likely the room there. And if we don't, then the other thing is we would have to go outside the city. And you may recall the board here, many of you are on for discussion, we didn't want to leave the city. I mean, because especially on Ledgeview side, because we were looking at going out in the town. And we talked about different things and different avenues, and the board and council, they wanted to keep everything within the community. Doesn't say we can't do it with Lawrence and drive 2-3 miles out into the town of Lawrence to find a site, but that's just kind of all the background on that. I think potentially once we operate that east side site, we will have, potentially we could take on the town of Lawrence, because we were ready for Ledgeview. But we won't know until we get that operating
and that was part of it too.
Yeah.
Just let it just kind of pause. Yeah. But you're right, we could lose.
We're gonna lose that site, and I just don't want us to the neighbor that they fully understand it. And I haven't talked to anybody.
No, that's good. I mean,
but I'm just saying, polite.
And they have conversations. In fact, you're saying that's very helpful. So I appreciate that. Other questions or comments? We have a motion in a second, don't we?
No.
Yep.
That said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, consideration and possible action to update the neighborhood watch sign policy. Who wants this?
It's you and Tony.
Tony on?
He should be.
Tony.
Yeah, back in January, there was a policy drafted that was put in place for replacing the neighborhood watch with the Pere where in that policy it showed that signs would be installed on existing posts as we enter the neighborhoods. All of the signs have been installed, except there's 22 locations where we don't have signage on the side of the street entering the neighborhood. One example would be off of Diversity and Ryan Road going into the Scarlet Oak neighborhood. All of the street poles, all of the WPS poles are on the south side of the the street. So as you enter, there's nothing on the north side to place signs in. So with those 22 locations, we are requesting an amendment to the policy that allows staff to determine when a signpost would need to be placed to install that signpost for the De Pere Ware sign. And the signposts are roughly $75. The De Pere Police Department has a grant that is up to $3,000 that would fund those, and any other funding of those signposts would be passed on to the Neighborhood Watch organization. So it would be a push for the city other than the staff time of installing. So this would keep the signs entering the neighborhood in the direction of traffic, not on the back of the stop sign on the other side of the street, making it much more visible and aware. And just in the places where we do not have an existing signpost or WPS pole to install. So we're just, a copy of the amended policy is in the packet, and we're requesting approval to continue with that.
Thank you, Tony. Comments, questions, motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Hanson, second by Alderperson Ledvina. Alderperson Ledvina.
I thought we voted not to have the neighborhood associations pay for the signs. I thought that the city was funding.
Scott.
That was kind of using, when we came up with the policy, my understanding was they were going to try to utilize what was out there based on the policy. As Tony indicated, they went out there, the existing policy feasibly doesn't allow it, so we have to install a signpost.
Right, but the actual signs.
They're paying, the grant is, the sign is provided with that grant, so they're not paying for it until, I guess what Tony indicated is $3,000. When that is out, then anything would be on them.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, so what's Tony has indicated that part of this $3,000 grant, the signposts were needed would be part of that.
Okay.
And if the neighborhood wanted it and the grant funding wasn't available, then the neighborhood would have to pay for the signpost and the sign.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? That said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Tony, thank you again.
Thank you.
Item 8, consideration and possible action on change order number 1 for project 2502.
That one is me.
Chase.
We had a
Twice
developer request from De Pere Historical Society at 403 North Broadway. They would like to have the city install a storm sewer to service their property off of Cass Street. We currently have a large diameter storm sewer main running on Front Street, so we'd come up the hill and provide them a point to connect to for their site. And the intent for them is to eliminate a sump pump on their site. They have all these historical records in the basement and they don't want a point of failure. So if a sump pump fails, there's the risk of flooding. And this way, everything would then gravity drain to our sewer in the roadway. With this request, we also see that we have sub-adequate water facilities on Cass Street from Broadway toward Front Street. We would take advantage of this opportunity then to upgrade our facilities there as well. So the two sets of work, storm sewer, the water main work, and then the eventual resurfacing of the roadway, it comes to about $150,000 of work that we are looking to have change ordered onto project 2502 with Crew Check Construction. The reason we're going for a change order instead of bidding this work out is kind of the time is of the essence at this point. We don't have the ability to go through the whole bidding process, award the work, and then get the work constructed this year in a timely fashion. So we got quotes from both Jossar Brothers and Crew Check, who are our big utility companies, and that we can absorb this work under the contract and still meet state statute for change order law. So we're looking for approval to approve the $150,000 of work, add the work on to 2502 as a change order, and then proceed with construction pending the approval of the developer's agreement for the public infrastructure improvements that we'll be providing for the Historical Society.
Very good. Thank you. And again, he did note that Historical Society will pick up, I think it's $50,000 it says right here. So they're picking up a portion of it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
100 us. Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Carpenter for this change order to move this forward. Questions, comments? You're all good. That said, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Chase. Future agenda items. Anyone have anything? I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Ledvina. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.